Hey everyone, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love seeing how global our community is. Now, let's get started. What if the person sleeping a few feet away from you is not the one who opened your front door a minute ago? What if the roommate you trust is just a mask something else, whereas after 3 a.m.? Welcome back to my channel. Tonight, I have 4 roommate horror stories that feel real. From doors that unlock themselves at 3:12 to extra shadows in shared bedrooms. Each story is a quiet warning. Listen carefully and tell me in the comments which one would make you move out overnight. I took the room because it was cheap and I was tired of couch hopping. The ad said, "Quiet place, night shift roommate, perfect for early morning workers." I worked a call center job that needed me up at 6, so it sounded ideal. My roommate, Mark, worked nights. We barely met. He showed me the kitchen, laughed that he only came home after 3, and said, "Do not look at me when I stumble in." Rent was low, and I told myself I could live with a few creaks. The first week, the pattern settled in. Every night, the digital clock by my bed would glow 3:12 a.m., and right on cue, the front door eased open. The chain rattled, but never fully caught. A bar of hallway light slid under our bedroom door and stopped by my bed. The air turned colder and smelled faintly of wet soil. I never heard keys or Mark's boots, just that careful weight of someone trying not to sound like they were there at all. Curiosity and lack of sleep make a rotten mix. One night, I texted Mark at 3:10. The door opened at 3:12 while my phone buzzed with his reply, a selfie from the break room. Clock behind him proving he was miles away. Another night, I left my phone recording on the nightstand. In the morning, I heard my own breathing, then a slower second breathing beside the bed. Right before the file cut off, a whisper by the mic said my name and asked, "Are you awake now?" That was when I started to lose more than sleep. My calls turned messy. My supervisor said one more week like this and I was gone. I almost stayed with friends, but leaving felt wrong, like something was waiting for me to offer it an empty bed. So I did the opposite of running. I set my phone on the dresser with the camera on and lay still. When the clock flipped to 3:12, the numbers froze. The chain rattled, and the smell of wet soil slid in as the door opened without a sound that I felt the weight in the room change as something stepped between our beds. I opened my eyes on 3. Mark's bed was made, but a figure in his hoodie stood beside it facing the wall, head tilted wrong. The face watching me when it turned was blurred, like Mark seen through dirty glass. When it spoke, it used my voice under his. "You finally stayed awake," it said. I moved out within days and told myself it was over. On the first night in the new place, my lock rattled at 3:12 a.m., and in the TV screen, my reflection turned toward the door before I did. You think you know how many people live in your apartment by how many toothbrushes are in the cup, right? That is what I believed too, until a third toothbrush appeared in our bathroom and nobody would admit it was theirs. If you live with roommates, you might want to count yours after this story. It was just me and Jay in that tiny 2-bedroom. Split rent, shared bills, one strict rule: no overnight guests. Jay said it like a joke when I moved in, but he meant it. No partners living here for free, no surprise friends on the couch. For me, it worked. I had just crawled out of a messy breakup and needed a clean, quiet place where everything stayed exactly where I left it. That was the plan. Anyway, one Tuesday morning, I stumbled into the bathroom half asleep and stopped. There were 3 toothbrushes in the cup instead of 2. Mine, Jay's, and a third one. Plain white handle, cheap, still wet. A tiny dark red smear clung near the bottom of the bristles. The mirror was fogged, but no one had showered yet. The tiles were dry, except for a ring of water in the sink and a few short hairs caught in the drain that did not match me or Jay. I called out, asked if he had company. He shouted back no, and when I held up the brush, he frowned like he had never seen it before. Little things started to feel off after that. At night, I would hear the bathroom light click on, soft brushing sounds. the rhythmic scrape and tap of bristles against teeth and ceramic. When I checked, the door stood open to an empty room. The tap would be dripping, and that third toothbrush lay on its side in the sink, wet and glistening. One evening, I lined our two brushes at precise angles, handles touching the same direction, and left the third one alone upright. I woke up hours later to the sound of water and could not shake the feeling that someone was standing in front of the mirror. In the morning, my toothbrush was pressed hard against the third one, like someone had tangled them on purpose. I told Jay what was happening. He stared at me like he was trying to decide between laughing and calling someone. "Maybe you were sleepwalking," he said. "Maybe you were doing it." I installed my old phone in the bathroom anyway, propped up to catch the mirror and the sink. That night, around 3 in the morning, I heard the faint hum of the fan and the tap. I forced myself to stay in bed. The next day, I watched the recording. At first, there was nothing, just the empty bathroom. Then slowly the mirror fogged over, even though the shower never turned on. In the hazy glass, I saw a blurry outline at the sink, head bent at the exact height where mine would be. The third toothbrush lifted by itself, bristles bobbing as if someone was brushing teeth that were not really there. When I tried to show Jay, the video glitched. The part where the toothbrush moved was just static and a popping sound. His patience thinned. He mentioned maybe I should move out if the place was stressing me. The landlord was worse. When I asked if anyone had complained about the bathroom before, he said the previous tenant would not stop talking to mirrors, and that if we made trouble, he would raise the rent. Now it was not just my sanity on the line. It was the only cheap room I could afford. For a while I convinced myself it was Jay sneaking someone in, breaking his own rule. I found the bath mat damp one night with what looked like 2 sets of footprints. I heard murmuring behind the bathroom door, a low voice and another one that sounded like a reply but echoed strange, like it came from inside the wall. When Jay picked up his phone at work and sent me a time-stamped selfie in uniform, still stuck on a double shift, something inside me snapped. I waited until the brushing started again, marched into the bathroom, grabbed the third toothbrush, and tossed it into the trash. "Whoever this belongs to, you are not welcome here," I said out loud to the mirror. My reflection stared back at me, a half-second behind, lips moving just out of sync. That night the brushing sound came back, not soft but furious, scraping and gagging as if someone was pushing bristles too deep into their throat. The fan roared. The tap ran. I stood outside the door for a long time with my hand on the knob, every instinct telling me not to open it. When I finally did, the room was full of steam. The mirror was dripping, and in it I saw 3 figures. Me, Jay behind me, pale, and a third person hunched over the sink, brushing their gums raw with the same plain white toothbrush I had thrown away. The sink in the reflection was streaked pink. I looked down in real life. There were only 2 toothbrushes in the cup, and the porcelain was white. I left a week later. I told myself new walls and a fresh bathroom would fix it. But in my new place, on the first morning, the mirror was slightly fogged even though I had not showered yet. My reflection lagged again, mouth still moving when mine had stopped. On the counter, in a cup I had bought the day before, sat my toothbrush, my roommate's, and a third one, plain white, still wet. You think an empty bedroom is safe just because no one pays rent in it anymore. I used to believe that too, until my roommate moved out and his door kept opening by itself at night. If you live in a shared place, listen carefully, because sometimes the apartment misses your old roommates more than you do. There used to be 3 of us in that old hallway. Me, Josh, and Eli. Eli's room was at the very end, right beside the fire escape door. He worked late, slept late, and walked with this little dragging step you could hear even over the TV. Before he left, he said something that sounded like a joke. "Whatever you hear, do not open my door at night." Then he laughed, taped over the inside of his peephole, and turned in his key. After he moved out, the room was supposed to be empty. Landlord had not found anyone new yet, but he left Eli's name on the lease and told us the room was not really vacant until someone signed. That first night without him, I checked the handle. Eli's door clicked shut, lock turned. The hallway smelled like dust and old paint. I went to bed telling myself the place would finally be calmer now that it was around 2 in the morning when I woke up. There is a particular sound, if you have ever lived with others, that you recognize instantly. The quiet turn of a doorknob that is trying not to wake anyone. I heard it at the end of the hall. Then the soft scrape of wood on wood as a door eased open. Light from the night bulb flooded under my door, and I saw, in that narrow strip, the shadow of a pair of feet standing just outside Eli's room. When I checked, heart pounding, his door was half open and the room was cold enough that my skin prickled. Curtains moved like someone had just stepped away from them. But the room was bare. The next nights got worse. I would be walking past that door and hear someone pacing inside, a slow shuffle with one foot dragging exactly the way Eli used to walk. If I stopped, the pacing stopped right at the threshold. Once, there was a soft knock from the inside, 3 gentle taps in a row, like someone testing the wood. No one answered when I said his name. Later, lying in bed staring at my phone, I saw our old group chat light up. Eli's muted icon showed the 3 dots like he was typing. The message never arrived. Josh said stress was getting to me. He told me not to mention any of this to the landlord with the inspection coming up. If this place seems unstable, we all lose the lease, he said. So I kept quiet, and I tried to make the door stay put. One night, I wedged a chair under the knob, angling it so any movement would send it clattering to the floor. In the dark, I listened as the dragging footsteps started again, circling the room, pausing at the door. Wood creaked. The chair scraped an inch, then another, like someone on the other side was slowly, patiently testing the resistance. In the morning, the chair was back exactly where I had left it, and Eli's door stood open a hand's width that I convinced myself he was coming back without saying anything, using a copy of his key to crash in his old room. The building had cameras now, so I asked the landlord if we could look at them for safety. He grumbled, but showed me. We watched the front door, the stairwell, our hallway. Just after 1:30, Eli's door at the end of the hall clicked and swung inward on its own. No one walked toward it. No one came out. The landlord paused the video, frowned, and said the sensors must be off. He reminded me again that a new tenant was scheduled to see the room on Friday, and that we better not scare them off. Friday came with the same dragging step in the ceiling. That night, long after Josh had passed out with his headphones on, the pacing started again. This time it did not stay inside. It came right up to the edge of my door and stopped. Light under the crack shifted as a shadow leaned close, and I realized what had been bothering me the most. Whatever was walking in Eli's empty room was still keeping his hours, still walking his route, like the apartment had memorized his routine and refused to let it go. I remembered his voice, half joking, "Whatever you hear, do not open my door at night," that I opened it anyway. The hallway felt thicker, like the air had gained weight. Eli's door was not just open, it was fully swung back, inviting. Inside, the room looked bare at first glance. Empty bed frame, rolled up mattress, blank walls. But the closet mirror on the far side reflected a different scene. In the glass, the room was still furnished. Drawers, posters, the old lamp. And on the bed sat a shape with Eli's drooping shoulders, hands clasped, head down like he was listening. As I stared, the taped-over peephole from his door appeared as a dark circle on the mirror frame, like an eye opening from the wrong side. Behind me, Wood whispered. The hallway light narrowed as Eli's door began to close on its own. In the reflection, the figure on the bed lifted its head toward me, but where its face should have been was just the smooth grain of our bedroom door, as if the apartment itself was filling in the missing roommate. It did not look like Eli. It looked like the idea of a person who lives at the end of the hall, waiting. I shoved the door back open and slammed my own shut. A week later, the new tenant moved into Eli's old room like nothing was wrong. The first night, I listened to the familiar step pacing behind that door. Only now there was another set joining in, lighter, trying to match it. 2 doors started opening after midnight instead of 1. I moved out soon after. On my first night in a different building, in a different city, my phone buzzed just after 2. It was a text from Eli's number, the one he had disconnected when he left town. The message said, "Why did you open my door?" You probably do not think about your name until you see it spelled wrong somewhere important. On a form, a badge, an ID card. That is where this started for me. With a plastic ID left on the kitchen table after midnight, under the harsh fridge light, with my roommate's face on it and somebody else's name underneath. When I moved in, he introduced himself as Ryan. Just Ryan, said with a shrug and a small, tired smile. He was a good roommate in the boring, important ways. Rent on time, dishes mostly done, no loud music, no surprise guests. I needed quiet more than personality. My new job wanted a stable address, my bank wanted proof of residence, and our landlord wanted correct legal names on every line or you are all out. So when Ryan offered me the spare room, I signed the lease without reading his part too closely. A few weeks in, I came home late from training, hungry and wired. The apartment was dark except for the open fridge. On the table lay his wallet, a Metro card, and his ID. I did not mean to snoop. The name just jumped out at me, black letters on thin plastic. Daniel K. Ward. Same face as Ryan's, but off somehow. The eyes were spaced just a little wrong, the jaw not quite the same angle. I stared long enough that the milk started to sweat. When he walked in and saw me looking, he laughed. "Old ID," he said. "Never got around to changing it. No big deal, right?" It would have been nothing, except the mail did not agree with him. That week, 3 envelopes slid through the slot. 1 to Daniel Ward, 1 to D.K. Ward, and 1, wrong font like it had been copied too many times, to a name I had never heard and could not pronounce. All jagged consonants, but our apartment number was the same on all of them. When I left them on his chair, he stacked them without reading and dropped them in a drawer. "Just junk," he said. The drawer was already full of letters addressed to different versions of him. Once I noticed it, I could not unsee it. Our Wi-Fi bill had one name, signed in looping handwriting. A building notice under our door had another name taped next to his room. A food delivery receipt on the counter had him scribbled as Ryan Ward, with a question mark, like even the driver was unsure. The signatures were all almost the same, but not quite. A curve here, a missing letter there. One night the intercom buzzed while he was out. A flat voice on the speaker asked for Daniel. When I said he was not home, the voice paused, then asked for the jagged, unpronounceable name from one of the envelopes. I checked the street from the window. The sidewalk was empty, but the buzz stayed on. Breathing quietly. HR from my job emailed me a few days later. They were doing a background check tied to my address and needed me to confirm the legal full name of the co-occupant because their system showed multiple conflicting identities registered to our unit. The landlord, when I asked, snapped that any paperwork fraud could get the whole lease pulled. When we crossed in the kitchen, I tried again. I asked him straight, "What is your actual name?" He smiled like a customer service rep and said, "You remember. I told you when you moved in." The thing is, when I reached back in my memory, the moment was blurry, like a word half erased from a whiteboard. I remembered his hand, the shape of it, but not the sound he had made when he said who he was. I started digging where I should have left it alone. I typed the ID number from that card into a government site. A missing persons page loaded slowly, as if it did not want to. Same face, different name. Not Daniel, not Ryan. Some third version. When I refreshed, the name field flickered between all 3, then glitched into a row of squares before snapping back. At night, when the wind rattled the window, the intercom would buzz once, sharp, and then repeat those names in a flat recorded voice, like someone scrolling through a list. Sometimes, after the last version, there would be a silence long enough for me to think it was over. and then it would say my name once, like a test out on the notice board in the lobby. There was an old collage of past happy tenants. One day I looked at it properly and felt my stomach drop. Two different photos from years apart showed a group of people holding plastic cups. Different clothes, different haircuts, but in the back of both, partly cut off, was the same face as my roommate. Underneath, the names were different. I brought it up to the super. He shrugged and said a lot of people come and go through that unit. Room 3B always has two names on the lease, even when it is just one guy, he added, like it was a joke. That night, HR sent a follow-up. They needed me to correct a typo in my own name. One letter had shifted in their system without me ever touching the form that I should have moved. I should have ignored it all. Instead, I waited until he got home late, the apartment quiet except for the humming fridge and the buzz of the ceiling light. His ID was on the table again, like it was waiting. I gathered the letters, the Wi-Fi bill, the building notice, the printout of the missing person record. I laid them out in a row. When he walked into the kitchen, I read each name out loud, one by one, letting them hang in the air. This is you, right? This one, or this one, or this. With every name, something in his face tightened, then relaxed in a different pattern. His posture shifted by degrees, shoulders rolling forward, then back, like he was trying on different shapes. The harsh light flickered in the plastic of the ID. The intercom buzzed, even though nobody pressed it, and for the first time, I heard it say my full name clearly, like it had been added to the rotation. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and there was a moment where I could not remember which version of my own name was correct. "You are making this harder," he said calmly. "The apartment likes the forms filled in. It does not care which name wears which face, as long as every line is complete." His voice did not echo right. It sounded like two people speaking in time and slipping out of sync. On the table, the ID card's printed name blurred, the letters smearing like wet ink, then settling. My first name appeared there, paired with his last name. On my phone, an email notification flashed from HR, subject line, "Updated records for my name," except one letter was swapped that I left as soon as I could find another place that would take me. New walls, new landlord, new everything. I watched every document as I signed it, every curve of every letter. Still, on my first pay stub at the new job, my surname had one wrong letter. Just one easy to miss. The envelope carrying it had two versions of my name printed on the label, one above the other, one of them crossed out in pen I did not recognize. And sometimes, late at night, my old apartment's intercom tone rings in my head, followed by someone patiently trying out different ways to say who I am. If you made it this far, you have just shared a night with 4 roommates nobody should ever have had. From doors that open at 3:12 a.m. to mirrors that keep brushing long after you stop. Empty bedrooms that remember who lived there, and names that do not want to stay put. These stories all ask the same quiet question. How well do you really know the person on the other side of the wall? Thank you for listening all the way to the end. If any of these stories reminded you of your own strange roommate experiences, or if you spotted clues or connections I did not spell out, tell us in the comments. Which story would make you move out the fastest? If you enjoy late-night horror told like a secret between friends, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There are more stories waiting in the dark, and you do not want to be the last to hear them.